Hi guys, it's a while since we did one of these. I'm back, maybe. And today we're asking a very important question. Is it worth pulling Dragon Dan, Acheron, and Aventurine? They are due the reruns. They're coming back around in the new update to appear on the banners again. Starting with Dragon Dan, running alongside Rapper, with Acheron and Aventurine on the second side. Now, all of these units do very different things. They have very different playstyles, and the worth, each one's worth is really dependent on you and your account. So let's start with, I guess we'll start with the one that's coming out first. Dragon Dan. This is like his second rerun since his release. Now I've been watching a lot of other creators, and the general consensus I am feeling for most creators is Dan has fallen off a little bit in the meta. I'm not entirely sure that's 100% true. Like, he still does. Like, the people were saying he wasn't that far off Acheron when Acheron came out, and suddenly now he's fallen off. I don't agree he has fallen off. It's just because Dan takes a lot of investment for a character compared to Acheron. It might feel like he's fallen off. Like, Dan gets better the more investment you have in him, and if you're only gonna pick up a singular copy and do none of the investment, then no, he may not be a worthwhile pull. Like, if you want to get Dan, then you should also want to get Sparkle and any other units, current or future, that may improve him, because without them he's not going to feel very good as a character to play. I don't like using him personally. I've never enjoyed him as a character. I only got him on my account by pure accident. I use Ratio in all of the content intended for Dan, and Ratio completes it all, and that makes me very happy. He's just such an optional pickup. But if you like him as a character, he will perform reasonably well. No matter what people say about him falling off, he'll perform fine. But he will perform better if you get everything to support him. Honestly, I feel like he's very much like Firefly. I know his numbers aren't comparable to Firefly unless you get his E2 and Signature Light Cone, but they're doing very different things. And like Firefly, he's kind of married to one team only. Like, you have to kind of want Sparkle, you want Ting Yun, and you kind of want Locha as his healer. And the reason why you want Locha, you didn't know, because Locha is also a character that's kind of fallen off. You build Locha as fast as humanly possible. You put multiplication on him, and you put him on the 4-win set, so that Locha is a single man skill generator, because as a sustain unit, he doesn't really use any skill points. His build ensures that your team is nicely topped up. He has an emergency heal for when someone takes lots of damage. Unless like an enemy is one-shotting you, Locha is all you really need as a sustainer, and he works so perfectly well with Dan. Like, he's just one of the better sustain units to run with him. That doesn't mean you can't run the other sustain units with him, but all the other sustain units need to use a skill point, and you want as many skill points as possible with Dan. Obviously, if you have Sparkle, that frees it up a bit. Personally, when I played him with Sparkle during the event, I didn't really feel like he fully mitigated his need for skill points as much as people would like to think, because while she just generates skill points with her ultimate, he just hoovers it all up. Obviously, that's mitigated if you have his E2 or his Signature Light Cone. Like, the more investment you have in him, the better. So if you really like him, sure, pull him. I don't think he's fallen off as hard as other content creators have said he has. Like, his numbers still perform fine. But he is a he's a hard work kind of character. You know, you need to put everything into him to get the best numbers. My build's not particularly well because I don't play him, honestly. I use ratio, and I wouldn't pull his light code or extra copies to make him better, personally. I don't like his playstyle. But if you do, just know you have to invest in him to get him to perform to the same level as someone like Acheron or Firefly. But I still think in like MOC content or Apocalyptic Shadow, he's fine, honestly. You just have to build him right. Next up, where is she? There she. Acheron, the next DPS on the banners. The most powerful DPS in the game, some might say. So Acheron's different, a much better unit compared to Dan for a couple of reasons. The main one being she gets access to the diver set. This set gives a lot of crit rate, a bit of crit damage. It just makes her genuinely easier to build as a character. The fact that she can so easily use the diver set, any character who can use the diver set, they just have a better build experience because you're getting 4% crit rate and like 12% crit damage. Let's like getting substats is hard, and she also has access to the Izumo's set, which I don't have her on because it's just not very good. The one I farmed compared to my Salsetto set I've got her on. I just haven't gotten around to changing her over, honestly. This set also gives 12% crit rate when you're playing them with someone else of the past, which means you're getting from her 2 signature sets 16% crit rate, which is enormous. 12% crit damage, and what is it, like 12% attack. It's a lot of like numbers, like a lot of numbers. Lots of free substats for your character, and this is just like, if Dan could use these sets as easily as she can, like technically anyone can use the diver set as long as you play them with Nihility, but Dan doesn't want to be played with a Nihility character or someone who applies regular debuffs, which you could arguably do as long as the enemies are right. Like, it's not that different to running him on arguably the, where is it? The 4-piece imaginary set, because you get this when they're debuffed, which they'll be when you break them. But I don't run him on the 4-piece this. I run him on the Musketeer set because it's just generally easier, and you know, the stats are just as good. Where the uptime of the crit rate and the crit damage on this one is just harder to do unless you're playing them with a debuff enemy. I guess, like, if you can get the debuffs, this set is just as good. I do Wild Wheat because, let's face it, the Wastelander is hard to farm. It's painful because it's more of the fire set, which is useless. So that's just another reason why Acheron's a better character. She's just got a better set to farm, which makes it easier to farm. Which means she can get all her stats quicker, which means she can do more damage easier. Now, there is this debate with Acheron whether or not she needs her signature light cone. I have a free-to-play account which has Acheron on it without her signature light cone, and honestly, while the signature light cone does give a lot of crit damage, so this is my free-to-play account. I've got Firefly on it. This is my free-to-play Acheron. She doesn't have as much speed as the Acheron on my main account because she's on attack boots. But as you can see, her crit ratio, like my crit ratio figure isn't that dissimilar to my main account's crit ratio. Like, she's not got as much investment, but she is on her proper set on this account. And I have her on this light cone, which I managed to pull I might have pulled the weapon band of this one, I can't remember. But yeah, if I play her alongside Pella, so you're getting the 30% crit damage and 10% crit rate on it, and it's like, this is a really good stat stick for her. Like, it's a really good 4-star light cone, especially if you can get it to like max thingies, which I can't remember what it looks like, but like that's a lot. That's a lot of stats just for playing her with Pella. Or a unit that can slow enemies, and like you're always playing her with Pella, because who else would you play her with? Xiao does not give defense shred. He gives what is vulnerability, so you kind of have to play her with Pella for this light cone. But if you didn't have this light cone, you could just play her on Pearls of Sweat, and that would work similar to her signature light cone in the debuff application. But like, I have zero issue getting a similar performance with Acheron on a free-to-play build. She does not need her signature light cone. Well, especially if you build your supports to be incredibly fast, like 140 speed Sacho and 140 speed Pella, and I often play her with Aventurine. My Aventurine on this account isn't particularly fast, but you get the thing. The faster your supports are, the less you need her signature light cone. Her signature light cone is nice to have, but if you don't have it, you don't actually need to pick it up. You can build a fairly impressive free-to-play Acheron without it. Her relics give so much extra stats, and if you have this light cone, you just have to play her with Pella or another character with Pearls of Sweat equipped upon them. Which you'd be doing anyway to get to get the extra debuffs, because Pella doesn't apply enough debuffs without Pearls of Sweat. Alright, last up we should talk about Aventurine. Aventurine is the best sustainer in the game at the moment. He is better than all the other sustainers in the game. No matter what team you play in, Aventurine will always be the best sustainer, because his shield's mechanics is broken. There are some circumstances where he might not feel the best sustainer, and that will be against enemies that apply dots, or enemies that are incredibly single target focused. But as long as you're up against enemies that have like blast attacks or AoE attacks, or attacks a lot in a round, he pretty much has permanent shield up time. He's the comfiest sustain. He's really easy to build. I have him on 4-piece diver because I aspire for my Aventurine to do damage. And he can make it so all of your supports can equip Broken Kill for 3, and without having to build effect res on them, which gives a nice buff to everybody. He's really easy to build. Defense. You kind of want him a bit fast. I had my Aventurine on 126 speed. My Aventurine is actually my best built character on my main account. I think on the character rate he's at like 35 points, which is insane. You can put him on any light cone. I have him on Japard's light cone because I have it at position 2. But you can put him on like whatever like preservation light cone you want. If you don't have Jiao, then if you play him with Acheron, you want him on Trend of Universe Market. But if you have Xiao, you don't want him on this light cone. You can have this. I think Day of My New Life is his next best one. You can put him on Concert for 2 if you want him to do a bit more damage. I think there's another one he can have that helps his damage. He's got like 2 free-to-play ones. Is it this one? Yeah, this one. Yeah, so he has lots of like cone options. Well, Japard's his best one. Really easy to build. He's got a reasonably good signature light cone to play alongside Dr. Ratio, but you have to build effect hit rate if you get to use his signature light cone because it's not 100% guaranteed debuff, unlike Topaz's light cone. So something to keep in mind because you might not get enough on your substats. Just saying. You could have him on full defense. He's such an easy character to build. I don't. So I wanted him to do a bit more damage, and he does. Aventurine, like, people like laugh off Aventurine's damage a little bit, but in a follow-up team, he's doing a lot of damage. And even if you're just playing him in like a hyper carry team like Acheron or whoever, he still does a lot of damage. His ult is quite damaging, and it has quite a lot of toughness break. So if you want to build like a little bit of break effect on him, that's pretty good too. But I would say out of these 3 characters, if you are undecisive on who to pull for, if you don't have him already, is the must pull pickup out of these 3 characters. Like, Acheron's really, really good, like a really solid unit, but you do have Kafka, even though she's fallen off a little bit because DHIL dot units haven't been supported. You do have our general, who, without going into anything that's recently been uploaded online, considering we have recently had this brand new set that buffs summoned units, and Lightning Lord is a summon unit, there is much speculation there are going to be a lot of summon buffs coming up in the future in version 3, which means Genuine is probably gonna have his use increased or be improved from how he is currently as a unit. Well, that is to be seen, but if you're getting by with Genuine on like MOC and all the other content, then you don't need Acheron. I have all of the lightning. I got Acheron, so I didn't have to pull Jinglue, and then I still pulled Jinglue, being an utter fool, and I don't use her. I don't use her at all. This is like the most unused character on my entire account, like utterly useless. But yeah, if you're undecided and you do not have him, Aventurine, I would recommend pick up. If you do have him, I wouldn't say you need to get his light cone. His light cone is 100% optional. Aventurine is really good to pick up. You do not need his signature light cone, especially if you have all your supports built well to go alongside her. Like, you need these supports to be fast as possible. Like, as fast as possible. If your supports are fast, then you're getting her ult up like nearly every round anyway. Like, this helps, but like, Xiao is a better pull than her signature light cone. This man applies so many Acheron stats, like, especially if you pulled him. Like, everyone was calling him mid during his beta. This guy, if you have him, you do not need Acheron's like signature light cone. Like, the difference this makes when it comes to stacking up her ult is negligible, especially when you have really fast enemies, because Xiao is applying so much debuff. It's the reason why you don't need the Topaz cone on Aventurine. He's applying debuffs every time an enemy moves to max out the amount that he can gain per turn. That if you have him, this light cone really is very, very optional, because it's not really going to add much speed-wise in the amount of debuff you're adding. Like, might like making her ult faster every now and then, but like, yeah, this guy is insane. Do you guys remember when in the, like, I think it was the Black Swan trial, the way her dots worked, when it was a bit glitched, they like reapplied every turn, and when I think it was like a trial with Acheron, it would increase her ult, and then they fixed it so Black Swan no longer did that. Yeah, that's what Cho does. Every time an enemy moves, it's insane. If you have him, yeah, you don't need this. It'll help. It'll make building stats quicker. But as you've seen, my stats on my main account and my stats on my free-to-play account aren't really that different. You don't have to build Acheron with speed boots because the most important thing for her is people applying debuffs, not her using her skill. So as long as everyone else is moving and applying debuffs really fast. That's another reason why her light cone doesn't really matter unless you are building her with speed boots. Because like with 135 speed that I've got her on, she's going like I think 2, sometimes 3 times a turn. Around even, which means that's 3 debuffs. No, that's 6 debuffs she's applying. So if you have her light cone, it's worth building her on speed boots. But if you don't have her light cone, then you might as well build her attack boots and rely on everyone else being really, really fast. Yeah, Acheron's an interesting one. Like this is such an I feel like having played her on my free to play, it's kind of an optional pickup. Dan on the other hand, dear Dan, yeah, he needs a lot of love and attention to do the big numbers. Like E2 DHIL with his signature light cone will be a much smoother experience. You do not need Acheron E2 unless you really want to. I think she does perfectly fine damage without, and just to be clear, I have cleared every end game mode in the game with what I have. I don't have Firefly, and I manage fine, perfectly fine. Do you wanna know who my Firefly is? Wanna know who my Firefly is? It's Hook. Hook is my Firefly. She's not on the build right now. But when I use Hook, I still use relics. And we do super break Hook, and she clears all of the content that is designed for Firefly just perfectly. Firefly is such an optional pool. I'm not sure I'm ever going to get Firefly for my account unless they make it impossible to clear with Hook, quite honestly. As for Rapper, I can't really talk about Rapper, having not experienced her gameplay. Like, I feel like Rapper is very optional because, like, Welt exists, and you can just put Welt on this light cone, and I don't know, if I was to do it, I'd give him these relics. Look at them. Look how beautiful they are. Do we have effect hit rate? We don't have effect hit rate. That's a shame, but it doesn't actually matter. Because that's not what we're trying to do here. We're doing super break Welt. Which means he'll be at 145 speed. More with Rune May, I guess we all like 155, right? With a 1-to-2 crit ratio, with this light cone, which gives energy recharge, as long as you play with a dot unit. Yeah, like I don't know about Rapper, but when her Pure Fiction comes out with all the imaginary stuff, I'm just gonna put on Super Break Welt and probably clear the content quite fine, and that's kind of all I feel about Rapper. I'm sure she's really strong, but she looks more like a Pure Fiction generalist because she can break all toughness, no matter weakness type, when she's in her ult, which is a bit more useful than Welt only applying in imaginary. But when you have big AoE hitters of every element type, like wind, fire, imaginary, physical, fire, ice, lightning, whatever, It feels... Rapper feels like a luxury unit. Honestly, if you don't have wealth and you're worried about clearing the upcoming imaginary perfections, then maybe, but I have seen people using her in MOC and Apocalyptic Shadow to clear, and I'm sure she'll clear fine. I mean, you can make Argenti clear MOC, so I believe it. She's a luxury unit if you have wealth, because you can pretty much make Walt do the identical thing that she does quite easily. I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. I'm not pulling Rapper. I'm not pulling next patch. I'm saving up for Sunday, because I am planning to get Sunday and his signature light cone and maybe his E1, because I have both him and his light cone guaranteed, so I only need 140 pulls, and if I get him early then I can get his E1, I'm hoping, which would be really good. I really love Sunday. He was really liked him in Pentaconi, and I'm sure he'll be great. Okay. I think that's everything. If you do have any questions to answer, I'll try and answer them below. Are you pulling this patch? Who are you pulling for? Or are you like me, saving for Sunday or the 5-star Ting Yun? I'm not sure I'm gonna pull Ting Yun. I'm gonna be honest with you. Rumor is, or speculation is, she's a break unit, and I've not really gone into break. Harmony, MC, and Ruin May is all I need. That said, I probably will pick up Lingsha next time she reruns. She's just at an unfortunate pull time at this time. Yeah, that's it. That's all. That's everything. Cool. So that's it. I'll try and get better with the videos. No webcam. Well, no little model of me today because my webcam's broken and I probably need to buy a new one. But that is fine. I'll hopefully catch you all soon in the next video. Goodbye.